Good day. My name's Dr. Hubert Danso, as Wanjira mentioned to you. So first of all, just let me welcome you on behalf of Africa Investor and the African Union's Continental Business Network and the African Green Infrastructure Investment Bank to, as Wanjira mentioned, this Africa-Europe Earthshots investment deal for climate, people and nature. I think we've heard a lot, and in fact, President Ruto has already given these opening remarks. This entire summit is an Earthshot. It is about a completely new transformative way for capital to work with policy, to work with delivering impact in Africa, in Europe, and across the globe. And I think that system has not really existed before. We've been acting in a very sort of vertical, dimensional fashion. And I think this ability for us to recognize that what happens in one part of the world affects the entire world is the same type of thinking that we have to sort of inculcate when we start thinking about scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3. Someone's scope 1 is someone else's scope 3. We're all interdependent and we're all interconnected. And I think that's the spirit that we bring to this conversation as the African investment community. We describe ourselves as institutional investors that are very different from the ordinary investors. We're different because we are universal owners. We own public markets and we own private markets. So in effect, we have an impact and an influence right across the entire economy. As we seek to decarbonize our own portfolios, we're always looking to see how those decarbonized portfolios can green the real economy. So this is a really exciting and interesting partnership because we're actually now really focused on how do we deliver scale? How do we deliver scale for the green industrialization agenda and leverage all of these incredible resources that we've known for so long that we have? But we're at a time where we now fully appreciate that it's a use it or lose it moment. And we as institutional investors want to ensure that we don't sort of just keep pumping stranded assets. We want to make sure that there's going to be a just, equitable energy transition that leaves nobody behind. And we want to use this and recognize this for what it is. From a commercial perspective, our mandates are to ensure that as we invest, pensioners and retirees and future generations get access to their endowments. So we really do believe that there are some very smart and strategic commercial opportunities. There's a $10 trillion per annum global green industrial economy, of which the continent is not this time going to be just 2% with over 20%, of the sort of demographics. So that's really what we are focusing on here. A strategic partnership that's good for the planet, that's good for the asset base of institutional investors, it's good for people, and it's good for nature. And we're actually going to be conglomerating not only capital, but we're going to be marrying that capital with bankable offtakes, and we're going to be creating what we are describing as just transition green industrial cities, which are effectively special purpose destinations where we can build this whole new next generation of investable environments. As we talk about critical minerals, for example, and having enough to power so many of these new transition technologies that are required. When we look at the endowment that we have, only 50% of the continent has been geologically tested, which means there's even more opportunity than we routinely sort of speak about from podiums just like this. So we're going to need to create new environments, and we're going to need to be the continent that can attract world-class industry to partner with us, share technologies, and then really create industrial as well as investment opportunities so we can access the global green industrial economy. So these are just my few words to just hopefully impress upon you the commitment that the African investment community has, that the African Union has through the institutional investor public partnership framework that it's established to help us as African investors increase our investment allocation to the climate transition to at least 5%. It's known as the African Union's Infrastructure Investment Agenda, also known as the 5% Agenda. As institutional investors, we have very specific mandates. So we have to make sure that pensions get met. We have to ensure that future generations' endowments are delivered. So investability is really important to us. And I think what we really need to think about doing is how do we recharacterize the agenda? And I think the agenda has become very much a development finance agenda when it should actually potentially be a blended investment agenda. And I think if we can redefine that agenda, we will be able to crowd in more capital. I think, a lot of our colleagues talk about it in terms of the development community is trying to make investment developmental. And then you have a narrow set of opportunities. But perhaps what might give you a bigger, broader, scalable opportunity is to make development investable. And then you not only have access to the institutional money, but you have access to the global markets as well. And then African domestic institutional investors can then seed and anchor transactions and then crowd in bigger, broader players.
President Ruto so eloquently described our trajectory for green industrialization being one where we move from a current 9 billion investment or extraction and raw material export proposition up the value chain to the 40 billion and then potentially go for the 7 trillion. I believe we can get to that 7 trillion if we have a much smarter, more strategic and pragmatic investment earthshot mentality and approach, and that we can partner to really get to that 7 trillion, but we need to do it through institutional investor public partnerships. So let's seize this moment, leaders, friends, colleagues, we all need to work together, and let's do it with a full scale ahead mentality. Thank you.